Hi loves, welcome back to the channel. I'm Esther. If you're new here, then you're highly welcome. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on your notification bell so you get notified each time I post a new video. You're welcome once again to another interesting tutorial, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to draft an off-shoulder bustier blouse with a perfect fit. Alright, so if this looks like what you're interested in, keep watching to the end. I already have my pattern paper folded into two, and I'll be drafting the front piece first. I'll rule a straight line to serve as the starting point, and I'll take the shoulder measurements divided by 2, mark it right there, and then from that line and that point I'll go up by 6 inches. Then I'll mark 8 inches downwards. Okay, that will be the armhole. You can do that by dividing your bust circumference by 6 and add 1.5 inches to it. Next, I'll mark the bust point, the under bust, and then the full length of the blouse. Next, I'll rule straight lines on those points that I marked earlier. After that, I'll label each of the lines appropriately, starting with the chest line, the bust point line, the under bust line, and the hip line. Actually, it's the upper hip line because it's a blouse. Okay, so next what I'll do is to take the measurement of my bust span or nipple to nipple divided by 2. For me it's 4 inches. I'll go ahead and mark that 4 inches on each of those lines. Okay, and after that I'll use my straight ruler to draw a straight line connecting those parts together. After I'm done with that, from the bust point I'll come down by ½ inch and also go up by ½ inch. I do this to avoid any pointy look at that bust area. On the under bust line I would come in by 1½ inches and also come out by 1½ inches, so altogether I have 3 inches there. Sorry guys, I forgot to mark the waistline. Okay, I'll just go ahead and measure that. So I would extend that 3 inches that I marked out on the under bust on the waistline as well. Then on the neckline or the starting point, I'll come in by 1 inch towards the center front and then 1.5 inch towards the side front. Okay, next I'll go ahead and connect the 8 inches that I marked earlier as the shoulder measurement. I'll connect it to the chest line. Then from the hip line I'll come up by 2 inches and connect the points using my straight ruler this way to form the dart. After I've connected the dart, then I'll use my curved rule to draw the curve at the bust area. Okay, I'll just make sure it's sitting perfectly on the ½ inch that I came down by. Just watch the way I'm connecting the points. Okay, so I just go ahead and connect it this way, making sure it's touching that ½ inch that I came down by. You can see it, guys. So I'll go ahead and connect the upper part as well. Connect the ½ inch that I came up by to the 1 inch point right there. Okay, I'll just go ahead and connect it this way, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So you can see how lovely the cup is looking. So I don't want that sharp edge right there. I'll just go ahead and blend it in. I'll do the same thing on this other side as well. Okay, so I'll measure the dart intake that I have at the starting point, which is also the neckline. It's 2.5 inches right there. I would replace it back, as you can see me do. Now I'll take my bust measurement divided by 4. I'll mark it right there on the chest line. I'll measure what I have at the dart intake right there and replace it. I have about 1 inch. So I'll replace it back on the chest line. Then I would add 2 inches seam allowance. On the under bust, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure what I have at the dart intake, replace it right there. It's 3 inches, and then I'll add 2 inches seam allowance. So on the waistline, I'll repeat the same thing. I'll measure the waist circumference divided by 4, mark it right there. I would measure what I have at the dart intake. For me, it's 3 inches. I'll replace it back and then add 2 inches seam allowance. On the hip line, I would measure the hip circumference divided by 4, mark it right there, and then add 2 inches. Now I'll connect the points together. So guys, at this point, you notice that the waist to the hip is having a kind of funny shape, and that is because the dart intake did not get down to the hip line, okay? And also this pattern is for a plus size. All right, so in case you draft yours and you're a plus size and you notice this, just don't worry yourself, just go ahead and extend the line outwards this way, okay? When you're sewing, it will be okay on the clothes, or you can go ahead and make your corrections there. I'll connect the armhole this way. So I'm just labeling the center front, okay? I'm just labeling it the way I labeled this side, okay? Now I want you to have a sweetheart neckline. So from that starting point, I'll come down by 1 inch. You can come down by 1.5 or 1 inch, or you can even do 0.5, or you can leave it the way it is, depending on the kind of neckline you want, okay? But for me, 1 inch is what I'm working with. So I'll go ahead and connect the curve using the curve rule right there. So you can see the sweetheart neckline is looking pretty already. I'll just go ahead and shade this part as it's no longer needed. Now I'll cut out the front pattern. The front pattern is ready. To add seam allowance, I'll add ½ inch all the way this way and this way, okay? Add ½ inch in these places, that's the bust area. I'll also add ½ inch at the armhole and then the neckline, then 1 inch at the hem, all right? But for the sides, I will not be adding any seam allowance because I already did on the pattern, okay? To draft the back bodies, I will repeat the same thing I did at the front. Rule a straight line to serve as the starting point, okay? Next, I would mark 1.5 inches, which will be the zipper allowance. I'll just mark that point all the way and then rule a straight line to connect the points. And after that, I'll go ahead and label the zipper allowance. I'll take the shoulder measurement divided by 2, mark it right there, and then from that point, I'll go up by 6 inches. Just like I did for the front. Then from there, I'll mark the armhole, okay, which is 8 inches. Next, I'll mark the bust point, the under bust point, the waistline, and then the full length of the blouse. Next, I'll connect the armhole line, rule the chest line, okay, and then rule straight line on those points that I marked earlier. Next, I'll go ahead and label the lines accordingly, starting with the chest line, the bust point line, the under bust line, the waistline, and the hip line. Sorry guys, it went a little bit out of focus. Next, I would mark the bust pan right there. Remember, I marked 4 inches for at the front, but for the back, I'll be marking 4.5 inches. That means I've already added the ½ inch joining allowance to it. That is because I will not be cutting out the back that at all. I'll be sewing it as one on the fabric, okay? So I'll go ahead and mark the 4.5 inches all the way on each of the lines. Then I'll connect all the points together. Next, from the chest line, I'll be going up by 1 inch, okay? And then on the waistline, I would take in ½ inch on both sides. Then next, I would connect the darts this way, okay? Just connecting it up to that 1 inch that I came up by. Then on the hip line, I'll come up by 2 inches, just like I did for the front piece, okay? Then I'll connect the dart. You can see how it's looking, okay? So now I would go ahead and take the best measurement divided by 4. I'll mark it right there, measure what I have at that dart intake there, replace it back, and then add 2 inches for the seam allowance. All right, then on the waistline, I'll take the waist measurements divided by 4, mark it right there, and then measure what I have at the dart intake, which is 1 inch. I'll replace it right there on the waistline, and then add 2 inches seam allowance. Okay, now on the hip line, I'll divide the hip measurement by 4, mark it right there, and then add 2 inches seam allowance. Then next I'll connect all the points together. So now I can connect the armhole. I'll just connect it right this way to the points. You can see the way I'm connecting it. To eliminate any bulge at the back, okay, at the zipper area, I'll just come in by 1/2 inch on the waistline, then connect it upwards this way, and then down towards the hip line this way. Okay, in case you have issues with your outfits having bulge at the back, or not relaxing well, or having folds, okay, do this and then you would not have such issues or cases anymore. All right, so now the back piece is ready. I'll go ahead and cut it out. So after cutting it out, this is what the pattern looks like. This is the front piece, okay, and I've explained how to add your seam allowances to it, and this is the back piece. So for the back piece, you'll be adding seam allowance to the armhole and the neckline, then on the hemline. All right, so those are the places I'll be adding seam allowance to. I will not be adding seam allowance to the zipper, and I will not be adding seam allowance to the side because I already added seam allowance to the side. Okay, so this is our pattern. It's looking so beautiful. If you enjoyed watching this tutorial, please give it a massive thumbs up. Click on the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you get notified each time I upload a new video. You can also comment and share with your fellow soulmate, family and friends. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.